All right. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully everybody can hear me at the moment. And I'm going to just check some things out here. And I can see a bunch of you on here. Kumar, Chris, Arturo, Ray, Teresa, Bob, Mike, Steve, Pete, Jan, Nick. So if you guys can hear me, please let me know in the chat. Just give me a 1. Or, of course, you can always let me know, excuse me, where you're from. We'd love to hear that as well. And yeah, just give us something in the chat to let us know that you can hear us. Mike says good volume. Excellent. As I clear my throat, which very unprofessional, but I just had my lunch a few minutes ago, and that's the way things go sometimes. All right, so we're going to get started in just a few seconds. And Arturo from Monterrey, Mexico. Wow, nice. All right. So we're going to be talking today about TV ads, in other words, TV commercials. Chris from London. Welcome, Chris. Good to have you on here. And as always, and I apologize that we were about a minute behind getting on here. As is always the case, we had a weird technical issue, of course, seconds before I went on the air. And it was kind of comical, actually. We're using easy links to create shortened links of everything for today that we send out. And of course, 5 minutes before I jumped on here, I just did a last second check, and none of the links in easy links were suddenly working. I think it's an easy links issue. Was working fine earlier today. But of course, as we get on here, we're going to run into those issues, and that's okay. We will get around it because we are, as we say, professionals. All right. So everybody else that's on here, feel free to come in and say hello. Let me know who else is here. I can see like Arturo and Mike and Chris and Steve have mentioned that they're on here. So we'd love to hear from the rest of you. And we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, we actually have a nice poll that we've set up here. And I'm going to pop it up here. And it asks, what do you think is the most effective type of advertising? And of course, we got TV on there, which makes sense since that's what we're talking about today. But we got radio, social media ads, newspapers, billboards, and we would love to hear what you think is the most effective type of advertising. And again, it's just your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer per se. There are some numbers that would tell you what the correct answer is in some respects, but certainly, we want to get your opinions on that. So feel free to. And let me hit the publish button. There we go. Feel free to jump in there and let us know what you think is the most effective type of advertising. And then as we do that, and I can see social media is already taking a big jump here. Let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you on that. And again, if you're just jumping in, be sure to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. We've got London. We've got the USA. We've got Mexico. We got all sorts of places, so we want to hear from you. Let us know where you're from. And, of course, that way we know you can definitely hear us. Everybody else seems to say that you can. So, and checking on that poll, TV and social media seem to be neck and neck here on that. So let's get your opinions on that, and we'll check back on that in a few seconds. Because today, of course, we're going to be talking specifically about TV ads and how to run commercials for clients in 2022 in some unique ways that allow you to do something that, well, not always the easiest thing to do. In fact, in the past, it was downright difficult. And we're going to get into all that in just a moment. So if you guys are ready, give me a 1 in the chat to say, hey, we're ready. Quit jabbering and start getting this show on the road because we got a lot to get to today. So just give me that 1 in the chat. We'd love to hear what you think if you're ready to go on that. And even if you're not, well, here we go. All right, we're going to be starting this off with letting you know a little bit. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but who I am and why you should possibly listen to me. I've been working in video since 1992, which, wow, whoo, that's quite a while. I'm getting up there in years, apparently. So since 1992, I've been working in videos. Back in the day, actually worked with a company in Cranston, Rhode Island. So if anybody's from Rhode Island out there, give me a shout out. But we started working there. We were doing not only TV commercials for cable, but we were doing things like wedding videos and event videos and all sorts of things like that. But the big thing on that was we were doing cable TV commercials. Now, I've produced a number of TV commercials, both nationally and locally, for a variety of companies, big and small, from small local businesses all the way up to big supermarkets that we've done stuff for. I've worked on a variety of TV programming. For those of you that were around back in the 90s, the Montel Williams Show, which I think is still on the air, we actually produced some segments for them. I also worked in the news at a TV station in Rhode Island called WPRI TV and Fox 64, which was a Fox affiliate. I've worked with for NBC, CBS, the ESPN, the NHL, the NFL, Sci-Fi, and a variety of other things, working on both TV programming, commercials, and other types of marketing things. For instance, we did a lot of work with the TV show Ghost Hunters, for those of you that are familiar with that Sci-Fi original that's been around now for, well, since the 90s, late 90s. Been around for a long time. And that is still on the air, I believe, at this point in time. In fact, they've had the international version. And yep, I started on that from day one when it first went on the air. I've been working in online video since before YouTube existed. And what I mean by that is I was actually traveling the country shooting videos of businesses across the country as well as municipalities for local governments and for chambers of commerce. And those videos were put online using something called Real Player. Now, if you're old enough to remember Real Player, give me a 2 in the chat so I know that you're a Real Player user, or at least you've seen real audio and real video in the past. I don't know whatever happened to them, but they were kind of the forefront for streaming and online video way back in the days, and audio too. Yeah, Arturo says he remembers that. And once YouTube came around, things kind of changed a little bit. We did a lot more stuff with them, but we also did stuff with a variety of other older video formats like VO, if you remember that one, VEOH. And and I used to actually do QuickTime movies and put them on websites, which people were like, "Whoa, how did you do that?" And that was way, way back in the early days. I began using YouTube ads right from the start. So when they first started doing YouTube ads, that was one of the first things that I did. And we used those for a variety of things for clients. We also used them just for getting raw numbers on our videos. So basically just throw $5, $10 at a video so that it gets a bunch of views really fast, things like that. But we jumped on the YouTube ads and the promotions right from the beginning. And we began running Hulu ads as soon as they were available to, and I put in quotes there, us. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that coming up. So you'll know what us means in just a few minutes. But yeah, that was the us part is a really big part of what we're talking about today. So my promise to you and what you're going to learn today. Today, we're going to talk about why TV has always been the top performing ad method. Okay. And it really has. And I know we've got our poll. In fact, I'll check back in on our poll here and see how it's doing. And looks like TV ads is starting to take over social media. Nobody thinks radio, newspaper, or billboards. It's interesting. All of those definitely have their merits, but TV has always been the top performing. And we're also going to go over how to create effective TV commercials. And there's a variety of things that you can do to make commercials that stand out. Even if you're a small business or a small agency working with small businesses, there are things you can do to create very, very effective commercials. We're going to talk about the downsides of TV commercials, especially in 2022. We're going to talk about the new way of TV advertising that still works in 2022. And I'm going to also, if I earn that trust from you, I'm going to give an offer at the end that will help you to get your commercials or your clients' commercials on TV so that you can start getting results, or you can start making a recurring income from your clients nice and easy. All right. And if all that's fair with you guys, give me a 3 in the chat and let me know that you think that's fair enough. And if so, we will move on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about TV commercials. Now, I know some of you are from Mexico and some of you are from England. However, for those of you that are in the U.S. and probably in the U.K. for some of these, probably the one on the bottom, you may recognize some of these really, really old commercials. Of course, the one on the top is for McDonald's. Everybody probably knows that one. The one in the middle. Now, I remember that commercial, but I couldn't I couldn't see what the label was. I believe it's for ragu spaghetti sauce, but it could be for Prego or one of the other ones. But I believe it was ragu. But anyway, it was an Italian tomato pasta sauce commercial. And of course, on the bottom we've got Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, touting the power of the Commodore VIC-20. Now, how many of you had a Commodore VIC-20 or a Commodore 64? If you had one of those two, and I'm sure many of you did, I know with somebody here from London, they probably did. Well, maybe not. You probably had a Spectrum or something. But if you had a Commodore 64 or a Commodore VIC-20, let us know in the chat. You can maybe let's put a 4 in there if you had a Commodore 64. Daphne, did you have one? Arturo did. Commodore 64. Yeah, me too. In fact, I got a Commodore 64 with a disk drive. And back then, everybody was still using tape. And when I got it, the disk drive was the new thing. Vicky also had the Commodore 64. Yes. Nice. Well, TV commercials have been the most effective form of advertising since about the 1950s. Now, we say that because TV, really started to get its groove in the 1950s. And of course, advertisers jumped on this immediately because they were getting right into your living room at the touch of a button. They turn on the TV and boom, they're there. Even with newspapers, they may have been getting into your house, but you had to actively seek out the newspaper. People would just flip on the TV and boom, there was the ads that were coming up there, and they were changing all the time. The newspaper, maybe you didn't get it today and maybe you got it tomorrow, or you lost it. The TV is going to be there. And radio, pretty effective in that regards too, especially before the 50s. But even now, TV ads are still, believe it or not, the most trusted type of ads. Now, I know many of you go, wait a minute, haven't I read that, people don't trust TV ads anymore. They want to trust, what other people say, or they want to trust off-the-cuff videos or live videos about things. And all of that is true. However, TV ads are still the most trusted for a couple of reasons. One, by nature of being on television, many people see that as a stature. They're big enough and they're good enough that they're on television. Therefore, they must be more trustworthy. They must be a bigger, better company. So being on TV in itself generates trust, even if people don't trust the TV ads as much as they used to. Being on TV definitely gives you that status symbol. Because who do we see on TV these days? It's Apple, it's Microsoft, it's Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, it's car companies, and all the big companies are what are on TV. Yeah, you still have local television. We do a lot of commercials, for instance, for local attorneys and things like that, but not nearly as much as it used to be, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you're on there, it's because you're a bigger company and a more well-trusted company. And they're the most effective because they have a captive audience. Now, what do I mean by a captive audience? If you're sitting down to watch the latest episode of whatever show you watch, those ads are going to run. Maybe you'll run off to go get a snack or something, but for the most part, you're sitting there through that commercial. You've got a captive audience that's watching that show. Okay. In the case of a website, if an ad comes up, people will be switching closing the tab or switching over to Facebook for a few seconds, things like that. Sorry, I had to hit the cough button there for a second. But with TV, you've got that captive audience. People are sitting there on the couches, oftentimes in groups, and they're not going anywhere. You're going to get your TV ad in front of those people. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I was sitting here choking for a second there. Now, what makes an effective TV commercial? Well, being the captive audience definitely has a big effect in that. The fact that the people kind of have to watch what's there. They're going to get it through their head. But there are some things that you can do with your ads that you create and with your videos. They don't necessarily have to be traditional TV commercials, but with videos themselves, there are things you can do to make those videos and those commercials more effective. One, open with impact. So what do we mean by that? Excuse me, boy, I'll tell you. Not sure what I did to choke myself out here. you want to grab attention immediately. Now, if you look on the, excuse me, my goodness. If you look on the right here, you will see two different ads that we've popped up here. Again, outside of the U.S., you may not know what that second one is for Wendy's there. But if you're from the U.S. and you're old enough, you know exactly what that is. That ad was one of the most impactful ads way back in, I guess, the mid-'80s. The lady in that picture there, her name was Claire Peller, and she was actually just the mother of one of the people working on this TV commercial. She was not an actress, but she became known for one thing, and that is, yeah, there we go. Teresa's got it. Where's the beef? She would scream, where's the beef? She would look at other fast food places' burgers, and she would scream, where's the beef? Because they would show little tiny burgers on the giant bun. And Wendy's made a killing with this commercial because it had impact. And it opened with impact. It would show this old lady driving down the street like a crazy person. And she'd scream, where's the beef? When she would get her burgers. And people would like lose their mind. When she would scream, and she'd blow up their speakers on the fast food places and whatnot. So it had a lot of impact. If you can get impact right away, you're going to get people's attention. Now, the one above that is the one for Right Guard. And they have a lot of commercials with crazy. The impact with them is they show something crazy. A man who's, half horse, is like a minotaur. He comes in and he's half horse. Or he does crazy things like this with the football and whatnot. So it gets attention. There's a lot of these that do that. One of the best advertisers right now that gets a lot of impact with the things they do is Geico, which is an insurance company here in America, for those of you outside of the U.S., and they typically have 2 or 3 different, completely parallel, different campaigns going at a time. All of them always have amazing impact. And they've even built literally these cult followings for their commercials. For instance, the cavemen, back in the thing, it was their one of their taglines was, it's so easy a caveman could do it. And they had all these commercials with cavemen in them, to the point where the cavemen in that commercial eventually had their own network television show. It didn't last very long because it was ridiculous, but their commercials had enough impact that the characters in the commercials became a TV show. Nowadays, they've got the gecko that they use, so they always show the little gecko doing something crazy, and that gets attention. The Budweiser frogs, a lot of impact there. If you remember that, with the 3 frogs, the 3 bullfrogs would say, Budweiser. Okay. If you can have some kind of impact, you're going to get attention. You're going to have an effective commercial. Now, when you're working with local businesses, you're not always going to have the types of budgets and time, and you don't have the name recognition to really do some of these crazy stunt type things. You need to be a little more direct with your advertising, but you can still have a lot of impact and do things that grab attention right away. If you're a local business, your biggest thing is you're going to need to get them to know who you are really fast, and you're going to have to get your contact information to them really quickly, because you are not Apple, you are not Pepsi, you are not Nike. People are not going to know who this local business is because you haven't spent $100 million over the last 10 years to make sure that everybody knows who you are. You've spent a couple $1,000s in Facebook ads over the last 2 years in the hopes that somebody clicks on your link. So in order to really get that impact, you got to do something clever, but you still have to really be direct advertising focused with that. You need to make your brand come through. Now, again, as a local business, this is a little bit tougher. With Apple or Nike or Coca-Cola, they can do anything on TV and then just have that little Apple logo at the end. And that's all they need to do, because everybody knows who they are. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars making sure you know that. You haven't, like I said. So what you need to do is you need to have something that, is impactful, but has that logo in there and that brand so that they immediately know that it's you. Okay. You got to get clever with this, because again, you still need to, with the local marketing, you still probably want to stick with very direct forms of advertising. Start and end with a name and or a logo. Okay. This is a great thing to understand. You need to let people know who it is at the beginning, who it is at the end, so that they can, relate this to you. How many of you remember any commercials where the commercial was super clever, But in the end, the next day when you were talking about how clever it was, you didn't remember what the product was. I got a great example. There was a commercial on the Super Bowl, debuted on the Super Bowl, and it was really fantastic. It showed this guy, he was making dinner, and he was, it was like a dinner for his girlfriend or his wife coming home, and he puts all the things together, and all these crazy things happen. And when she walks through the door, he's got the cat held up in one hand. He's got the knife in the other hand. The tomato sauce was spilled on the cat and on the ground, and he's holding a knife next to the cat. And it looks like he slaughtered the cat, and the dinner was ruined. And it was amazing. If you gave me $1 million right now, I could not tell you who the advertiser was, what product it was. But it was a great commercial as far as entertainment value. We need to make sure that you've got your information on there so that people always know who it is. In fact, in a lot of local business marketing, I recommend that their logo is on the screen, or their phone number's on the screen, or their website's on the screen throughout the entire commercial, just because you really need to slam that into people, because they're not going to be able to pick up on it all by themselves, like they would with a Pepsi commercial or an Apple commercial, things like that. Use your voiceovers and text to reinforce your message. So a lot of people may hit mute when there's a message playing. So you need to be able to communicate to them with what's on the screen. Now, voiceover, obviously, if they mute, they're not going to hear. Graphics will, text will, and the voiceover really needs to enforce what's there. In fact, the voiceover can really be, in many cases, the majority of the message in the commercial, with the images kind of supporting that message. But you got to make sure that your text, your voiceovers work really, really well with what it is that you're trying to get across. Now, you also need to have a clear message that you're trying to share. So make sure that you're not trying to overcomplicate this commercial. You've got 30 seconds to tell your entire story, your entire message. Don't try to have 5 different things going on, and it's going to be too much. You need to really focus down on sales pages. For instance, when people make sales pages on their website, typically they don't have all the links to their other pages, and they don't have the advertisements for other things on it. They make a page that is literally devoted to just that product. And the reason is because you only have a certain amount of time to grab attention, to get the message out there, and you can't have the distractions. So if you can remove the distractions and really focus in on exactly what you're trying to accomplish, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And of course, you have to have a clear call to action. And this goes with anything, but especially with these TV commercials. In the case of my cat and the knife and the spaghetti sauce, they did not have a clear call to action. I didn't know what to do at the end. Don't remember who it was. Don't remember where to go. Don't remember what the product was or how to buy it. You need to make sure that at the end, it's like, hey, call this number to book now, or click, go to whatever.com to pick this up immediately, or search this on the internet to find our product. Whatever it happens to be, make that call to action clear, strong, and make sure that people see it. Okay. Very, very important. Tell a story about your brand. Now, this, of course, can be a little difficult with local businesses, but it can certainly be done. A good example of that, back in the day, when I used to live up north, I worked with a car company. It was called Tasca Automotive Group, and they owned Ford, Lincoln, Mazda dealerships, and we branded them as the family dealership, the friendly family dealership, with the idea being you got to know the entire family. And so, of course, they're a car company, car dealer. So they had pretty good budgets to work with. So we could make lots of commercials. But we put together all these different commercials that told this story of how, 4 generations of Tascas had been selling these vehicles. And they had the grandfather, I started all this back in 1902, whatever it was. Well, sure, it certainly wasn't 1902, but, I started this and my sons have taken over a lot of the business now. And then it cuts to one of the sons. And as we've taken over the business, we've made sure that the Tasca name remained blah, 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 blah. And now even our kids are part of that. I'm Jimmy Tasca, and I've been here for the last 2 years, and we're being groomed to take over the business. And you can always trust in us. The whole point being is all these commercials reinforce this idea that they've been around forever. They're a family. And that when you come into that dealership, you're dealing with their family. Very effective. And again, we had budgets to do lots of commercials over a long period of time where all of these commercials would kind of build upon that. And we would also create what were called donuts with this. So after we had the commercial that established the whole family relationship thing, maybe we've got a commercial selling the Mustang. And so in that commercial, it would start off with like, hey, this is Bob Tasca, who started this whole Tasca family business. And, now we got to deal with my Mustang. And we show the deal with the Mustang, and then it would reinforce the family thing at the end and the call to action. So the main commercials kind of just told the story. And then these other commercials would use parts of that story to wrap around whatever they were trying to sell at that point when it got more specific. So you need to be able to do that. Tell the story in there. Make multiple commercials that tell a story. At the escape room, one of the things that we always, I should probably mention, sorry, this is a different audience. I'm not just a marketer. I'm not just somebody that works with clients on television. I actually own a number of local businesses, and I use these things on those. One of the things that we own is a chain of escape rooms where we lock you in a room and you try to escape. Well, in the commercials that we use for advertising, whether it's, on actual TV or it's on YouTube or what have you, is, a reinforcing theme of time and clocks, and you're running out of time and you got to solve a mystery. So they always have that story in there. Oh my gosh, you've only got 60 minutes. You've only got this much time to solve this mystery. Okay. You also want to tailor the content and message to the target audience. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's say that you are selling, something that young people buy. What I'm trying to think of something good that young people buy right now. Let's say that they buy a certain brand of shoes. And the people that buy this brand of shoes are women, usually between 16 and 25. Okay. So if that is your target audience, you don't want to have a commercial using shots of things from the 1950s and 1950s music. It wouldn't make sense. Make sure that you target your audience with the message. So if your audience is 16 to 25 women, then you want to use things that 16 to 25-year-old women would recognize, would be interested in, that appeals to them, and use that in the commercial. So just make sure that you target it down to that. If your product is for males, then you probably want to have stuff that you think they would be interested in seeing in the commercial to get their attention. And then last but not least, for streaming services, make a nod to the fact that, hey, this is we're hip, we're modern, we're streaming, that kind of a thing. So it doesn't have to be as buttoned up and tight-laced as a commercial would be on regular television. You can kind of allude to the fact that, this is the modern type of audience. So if you do these things here, you can have a commercial that's much more effective. And by the way, if any of you have any questions about these things as you jump in and, as I say these things, feel free to jump in and ask. I'll be glad to answer them as we go along. But let's move on here for one moment, because we're going to talk about the downside of TV commercials. So we've talked about how it's the most effective type of advertising. We talked about how to make an effective commercial. But let's talk a little bit about the downsides of commercials. They are the most expensive form of advertising, and they always have been. So whether, at least when we're talking about traditional television or even cable TV, even on cable television here in the US, that was considered cheap TV advertising, was being on cable. So instead of being on the local station, you were on the Sci-Fi Channel, or you were on USA or TBS or whatever it happened to be. And that was still pretty expensive advertising. And it was a pain in the butt. You had to jump through a lot of hoops. You had to pay a lot of money. You had to buy all these different spots. And, you could be spending thousands and thousands of dollars every month on this advertising. Okay. And while it was very effective, that kind of left a lot of people out of that. So, your small plumbing company isn't going to be able to do that where Roto-Rooter can. Your little restaurant isn't going to be able to do that, but McDonald's can. And so that's kind of the issue there. Is it was very expensive, very difficult for the average small business to jump in on TV advertising. Every once in a while, these guys would jump in and do cable advertising. But the problem with that is, in order for the TV advertising to really be effective, you've got to repeat. And If you're on cable, twice a week on 2 different channels, very few people are going to see it. There's no repetition in there. They're not going to see it multiple times. And it means you're going to get some audience, but not a ton. It's going to be a lot of wasted time and effort on that. So very expensive to do it effectively. Nowadays, DVRs allow people to just skip the commercials anyway. So imagine that you're a small mattress company in a small town and you pay a fortune. Tony says he's unable to hear anything, or she's unable to hear anything. If everyone else can hear me, be sure to post up there that you can hear me. I want to make sure that we're still live on the air. So Daphne or Teresa, Chris, Arturo, if you can still hear me, just post a 1 in there just to make sure. And we'll continue on. And okay, Daphne says, so I will, everybody else can hear me. Okay, good. So what I'll do is, if you guys don't mind for 1 second here, I am going to send a little message to Miss Teresa. Oh, not Teresa, to Tony, sorry. All right. So talk amongst yourselves while I do this, while I let her know. And or maybe, okay, there we go. Okay, so as I said, DVRs, they allow you to just skip the commercials in most situations. So imagine you're that mattress company, you save up all this money, you're going to do this big TV campaign, you put it on TV, and the few times that you get to have it on TV, the people press the fast forward button because it's all on the DVR. And you spent all that money and hardly anybody saw it because they just skipped over it. Not good. Not good at all. DVRs are a big problem when it comes to that. The only effective TV advertising I shouldn't say the only effective. It can still be effective, but not as effective. But the only ones that are still really effective would be during live sports and during the news. So locally, if you can get your stuff on the news, people are usually watching the news live. They don't usually record and play it back on DVRs. So you get some good stuff out of that. But that's also very expensive. In fact, many TV stations, the whole way they stay in business is by running very expensive commercials on their news that pays for a lot of what's going on there. So that can be very tough. More and more people are cutting the cord. And that means that the actual traditional television audience is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. People are, not getting cable or satellite TV. They're just using Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Apple TV and all those other ones and watching their stuff that way. And that makes it tough. If you got a commercial on local cable, but everybody's streaming nowadays, well, then, you don't have that same audience. You don't have, even if you look at popular TV shows these days, when they do really well, they're like, oh, they had an 18 million person audience this week on Thursday at 8:00. Well, in the old days, that was nothing. And there are lots of YouTube channels that get more than 18 million when they put out an episode. So it's just not what it used to be as far as that goes, because with the DVR skipping with the people that are watching and many people cutting the cord and not using traditional television, that audience is kind of destroyed. And then on top of that, as I kind of alluded to, the whole process can be an absolute nightmare. You've got to go to media buyers, and some media buyers only do this and other ones only do that. This one, you're dealing with this TV station directly. You're trying to get a commercial on their news, and then you're trying to do it on this station. And obviously the same person isn't dealing with 2 different stations. And then you're trying to get it on cable, and you're dealing with a cable broker. And it's a real pain in the neck. And, as far as the money goes, it kind of costs what they get you to pay. And you're going to get what you pay for. And what I mean by that is, if they can get you to pay $10,000 when they can only get this guy to pay $8,000, you're paying $10,000 for the same thing, and too bad. That's what you agreed to pay to. Or, you're going to get a price negotiated, but your stuff's going to be showing at 3:00 in the morning, on an episode, a rerun of Gilligan's Island that nobody's watching. So you got to be careful with all that. It's not an easy process. It's still very expensive, and you may not be able to get what you want. There are some interesting things that are out there. Like, for instance, there are companies, and I've seen them advertising recently, that will sell off all the extras that stations have. So you buy into this, company that will get all the extras. And what I mean by extras is, let's say I'm a TV station and during a typical day, I've got, 50 spots for 30-second commercials, but I've really only sold 40 of them. I've got 10 extras and they're at random times. Well, we need somebody to fill those random spots. And so you can get them at a discount. And so there's these discount brokers that will sell that. So that can be a potentially good deal. But again, still kind of a pain in the neck and you're kind of gambling with that. So it can be a little tough. So what about the new way of running TV commercials? And this, by the way, is something that I've been using for, since we bought some of these local businesses. This is what we've been running. So we've been on television running TV ads using what I call the new way of running TV commercials. And that's with what is often referred to as OTT advertising. OTT advertising meaning over the top. Now, what is over the top? Over the top means, the streaming services, Hulu, Roku, Netflix, Apple TV, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, the WWE Network, Peacock, UFC, whatever it happens to be. They've all got these different streaming services, and those are what are often referred to as over the top. Roku boxes are considered over the top boxes. Apple, same thing, the Apple TV box. All of those things have opportunity. Well, I shouldn't say all of them. Many of those things have opportunities to run advertising that can really be effective in your traditional TV household that's using streaming services. A good friend of ours who you probably are well aware of has a product that teaches you how to create your own channel on Roku. Roku can be shown in your living room on your TV, and you can run advertising on that. In this case, what I typically am doing is on Hulu, and that's what we're going to talk about in a minute. But this has some big advantages over traditional TV. And I list here that it's more targeted, which it is, and the commercials can't be skipped. But there's even more advantages to that as well. So more targeted, what we mean by that is when you buy, let's say you're going to do on TV news, okay, on a local news station. Well, that local news station may hit, depending on, where I grew up in the state of Rhode Island, you had the stations that were in Providence, they hit the entire state of Rhode Island and parts of Massachusetts and probably parts of Connecticut. And so when you advertised, let's say you've got a restaurant and you're in one little town on the, extreme north of Rhode Island, and you run on the news, you're targeting people that are, an hour away, an hour and a half away, that probably aren't going to be coming over there. You're not targeting just that general vicinity that's more likely to come to your place. So you're spending for a lot of people that may not come over to your area of the world in order to do that. Now, of course, we're not talking about on the other side of the country. So certainly people at the other side of the state may want to drive over there, but you could be if you were targeting on Facebook, you're probably targeting much, much smaller area closer to you. And you can't do that with traditional television. It's just not possible. They're going to hit what they hit. Now, with cable companies, it's a little bit different because some of them only hit certain areas. And in some cases, when we were younger, they would almost have exclusivities a lot of times. I don't know if it was officially exclusivities, but, this area only has Cox Cable. This area only has Rollins Cablevision. This area only has this one. And when that's the case, you might hit this town and not the town next to it and part of this town. So again, even with cable advertising, it wasn't as ubiquitous. And of course, if people have satellite TV, that's really tough to get local advertising satellite TV. So you're out of luck there if anybody has that. With services like Hulu, you can target, kind of like you do with things like Facebook or YouTube, where I can say, okay, I want to hit this town, this town, this town, this town, this town, or this entire state, or this half of the country, or the entire country, or the entire world. I can make those choices. And, no matter what my budget is, I can still do these things. And you can't do that. If I wanted to get across the country, going to my local TV station isn't going to cut it. It's only going to give me the area that covers. If I want to cover a really small area, the TV station is going to be sending it out to places that really aren't that effective for me. So with Hulu advertising and over-the-top advertising, you have opportunities to be much, much more specific. And that goes for YouTube video advertising as well, which goes hand in hand with this. In fact, when we talk about the TV commercials, I recommend you do YouTube advertising with these as well. But this is going to give you the opportunity to really get in there and target down. The commercials can't be skipped like on traditional TV. What I mean by that is when you're watching Hulu and a commercial comes on, guess what? You got to watch the commercial. You can't skip it. Unlike traditional TV with DVRs now, they can skip it. Now, the problem that arises with this, and this is the part that kills me because this happened a long time ago, back when streaming video started to be a thing, somebody came along and was like, well, a pair of eyeballs watching a TV in a living room is worth X. Well, if they're watching on a streaming service, they're not nearly worth as much. Well, now the streaming services are on your TV and they're cheaper because somebody decided a long time ago that they weren't worth as much. And now they're doing the same thing and people are used to paying lower prices. And on top of that, they can't skip the streaming ads, but they can skip the traditional TV ads. So the streaming media eyeballs realistically are worth more than a traditional watcher of television because they can't skip the commercials and they're on the TV now. So they shot themselves in the foot, and that's a good thing for us because that stigma has lasted and the advertising is still a lot cheaper because of that. Okay. So going to Hulu, why is it that I talk about Hulu? And again, I do advertising on places like YouTube as well. Very, very effective. But Hulu is more likely to be in your television, and that's what we really want to get with this. And Hulu, believe it or not, serves 115 million ad-supported viewers. 115 million ad-supported users or viewers. That's a huge number. Daphne says, do you know what day it is? That was the last commercial. I'm not sure what you mean, Daphne. If you can clarify that, I'll try to answer it. But Hulu, 115 million ad-supported viewers. It's owned by Disney and partially by Fox, but Disney kind of has most of the control over that now. And so they're part of that whole Disney network with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. So they kind of work hand in hand with all that. The majority of their users watch on TVs. Yes, some people watch it on their phones. Yes, some. Oh, okay, Daphne. Sorry. Okay. Okay, sorry, folks. I got to go back for a second. So this commercial here is about Hump Day with the camel. This is a Geico commercial. We mentioned Geico earlier. They had these commercials with camels. What day is it? It's Hump Day. Ha ha. Hey, comment. Okay, so now I get it. Totally missed that. All right. Sorry about that, Daphne. And Teresa helped me out. She figured it out. All right. So as I said, it's part of the Disney networks and the Hulu. It runs ads on its programming. So unlike, let's say, Netflix, where you pay a monthly fee to watch Netflix, you don't really get advertising on there. With Hulu, you get ads, and they run them like traditional ads. They run before the shows, they run during the shows at breaks, and they run at the end of shows. So you're going to get ads just like you would on traditional television. And the one good thing is, unlike YouTube, which I wish, YouTube, pay attention. I wish YouTube was on here to listen. The one thing that Hulu does very effectively is they put the ads on the breaks where they're supposed to be. You don't just randomly start getting a commercial. The commercial comes in where it would have come in if it was on television. So when the action goes, we'll be back after this, boom, that's where the commercial runs, just like it was on traditional TV, which is great. As opposed to YouTube, where just in the middle of the most important thing, suddenly a commercial might pop up. So that's one of the good things about it. Hulu allows targeting by location, as we mentioned, as well as other demographics. So much like targeting with Facebook ads or YouTube ads or Google ads, whatever it happens to be, you can target by the location. So for instance, here in Loganville, when I run my TV ads, I run them to Loganville and Snellville and Monroe and Lawrenceville. So it's about like maybe a 15 to 20 mile radius that I run it in, so that all those people will be able to drive here within 10 minutes or so. And that's how we target those areas. So we can target by either, like a bubble, or you can target by zip codes, cities. So there's a lot of options there for that. But you can also target based on demographics. So if your product, again, is for 16 to 25-year-old girls, women, you can target women and you can target that age. You can even target based on their activities, just like you would with Google ads or Facebook ads. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's as robust as those. It's not. It's a lot simpler and a lot easier to do, but you still have that opportunity to target. So if you need to get men who live only in Atlanta and who are, 25 to 45 years old, you can run that ad just to those people. And even better, let's say that you've got something that's really specific to a type of channel. So for instance, let's say you've got a men's football league. Okay. You could potentially run that ad only on sports-based channels, sports-based programming. So that when people are watching, some sort of sport on Hulu, they're going to see the commercial for joining their sports league or watching their sports league or whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of MMA organizations that are local and small. You can make sure that your stuff runs on channels that are running, UFC content or what have you, and make sure that that's who sees it. They're watching the UFC. They see, I can go watch this locally by this MMA group. You can do that kind of stuff with this. It allows that kind of targeting. It doesn't require massive ad buys. This is when I say earlier at the very beginning, when I put you in, or what did I say? Us in parentheses or you in parentheses. This is what I was talking about. You do not need to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to run ads on Hulu. It's actually much, much easier. Back in about 2020, you used to have to say that you were going to run $20,000 in ads in order to use Hulu. If you wanted to run ads on Hulu, you had to commit to spending $20,000. That's not cool. Nobody wants to spend $20,000 when they're just learning how to do advertising. So what this allowed to do, they changed it to where you only had to commit to $500. So for instance, when I run my Hulu ads for my local business, I can say, I want to spend $1,000 and I'm going to spend that $1,000 over the next 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, whatever length of time I want to do it. And then that way you can, that $1,000 that you've kind of committed to now that you said you're going to spend, if you're putting that out over 5 months, you're only spending a couple $100s a month. You may want to spend more than that, but point is you can do that kind of a thing. You only have to commit to at least $500. But here's the dirty little secret, and write this down so you remember it later. They don't hold you to that $500. So if I say I'm going to run this ad I'm going to run it for $500, and I run it for a week, and I'm not liking that particular ad, or maybe I want to change something or do something totally different, I can pause that ad and stop it. And they're not going to come after me and go, well, you owe us $500. You said you do $500. They're not going to do that. You can run another ad and say, I'll do $500 in this one and start another ad. But they've, I've had to stop certain ads because either something changed or what have you, and didn't spend the full $1,000 I committed to, or the $500 that I committed to. And, there's no complaint. There's no repercussion. You just go on and do the next thing. So it makes it very, very easy as far as that goes. And, and it's not hard to do, which is the good thing. Viewers are more likely to watch in groups. So if you think about YouTube, most of the time when you watch YouTube, you're sitting at your desk and you're watching YouTube on your screen, or maybe you're sitting at the bus stop and you're watching it on your iPhone or your iPad. Not super often are you sitting in the living room with the whole family watching YouTube videos on the big screen. With Hulu, that's what you're doing. So when you run an ad, you are often running that ad to multiple people at the same time. Okay. Just a break here. Daphne says, so could you run commercials that would get people to a private channel that you may have created on Roku? I don't see why you couldn't do that, Daphne. I don't imagine that Hulu would care about that. I've actually run quote unquote run some ads just to see if Hulu would approve it or not, and then stopped them. And yeah, I haven't seen anything that does that. I know they do have, there's actually a list of things that you can't do. Like you're not supposed to be selling, anything illegal. You're not supposed to be doing drugs and guns and things like that. But as far as that goes, I don't imagine they would stop that. And the great thing is, the worst that could happen is they say, no, we won't run that ad. And okay, and you just move on and, do something else. or run it somewhere else. But I would imagine that would be okay. I don't think they would have a problem with that. And that would be a great use for that. So if you're using TV Boss and you've created a channel that's dedicated to, something, you could run your ad telling people to go to the Roku thing to people that are watching similar content or to that target audience. And that should work. I can't guarantee that they won't say no to that, but because I've never tried that specific, but I would imagine it'd be okay. Like I said, the viewers are going to be watching in groups. So when you hit one person, you're hitting a whole family, which in my case with the escape rooms, that's a great thing because we want the whole family to come, right? And again, did I mention this? You can't skip the ads. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, on Hulu, you can pay a higher tier to not see ads. So some people do that. But as it says up here, 115 million of them are the ad-supported viewers. And I used to have Hulu that didn't show ads. I actually downgraded to the regular Hulu because I wanted to see the ads that were being run. So I actually wanted ads on there. So I actually do show those now. And that's a good thing. So going further on this, 66% of viewers are what we call lean back viewers. Now, what we mean by that is lean forward and lean back. What it is if you're watching in your living room, you're sitting on your couch, you're leaning back, you're watching the big screen across the room. That's a lean back viewer. If you are watching on your smartphone sitting at the bus stop, you're leaning forward and looking at it. So they refer to that as lean back or lead forward. And 66% of the viewers are lean back viewers on that. That means they're sitting in a place where they're on a couch, leaning back and watching on a big screen. And based on the ads that I've run, because I don't limit my ads to just TV viewers, which you can do. I let it run on TVs, on iPads and tablets, and on mobile devices and computers. And still the vast, vast, vast majority watch on traditional televisions. Okay. The costs are very similar to YouTube ads. I don't have any of you. Do any of you run YouTube ads? If you run YouTube ads, give me a 1 in the box if you run YouTube ads already. YouTube ads can be a very inexpensive way to get some great advertising. We used to do a lot of work when I used to have a company that when I lived out west, I had a partnership and they still do all this. I moved since then to the other side of the country, so I only help them occasionally. So I'm not really part of that company anymore. But we dealt with lawyers, and we ran YouTube ads with lawyers. And we also ran Google ads with lawyers. Well, we were getting more impressions and more clicks from the YouTube ads than we were the Google ads, but at like a tiny fraction of what we were paying for Google ads. Typically, when I run a YouTube ad for local businesses, I'm getting those views for 5 cents, 4 cents, 6 cents. And with the Hulu ads, when I run them locally, I'm getting about the same, 4, 5, 6 cents, per impression. Now, I'm using the word impression because that's what they use. Impression means somebody who watched the commercial. Okay. Now, impressions, by the way, a bit of a misnomer because one impression could theoretically be a room full of 5 people watching TV together. So an impression is how many times that commercial was run on a screen somewhere. But there could be, if it's on a TV, there could be 3, 4, 5 people watching at the same time. So theoretically, if you add that into it, it's probably even cheaper per person than the YouTube ads. Streamers are more likely to share what they watch. How many of you have been on Facebook? And give me a 2 if you know what I'm talking about. How many of you been on Facebook and you see somebody that's like, oh, I just found, Stranger Things on Netflix and watched it. It's amazing. You should check it out. Or, oh, have you guys seen Cobra Kai? It's an amazing show on Netflix. Or, Only Murders in the Building is on Hulu. You should check this out. It's amazing. I see that all the time. What I don't see all the time is, hey, I watched Law and Order last night. Did you check that out? You don't see that very often because the people that are streaming are much more likely to share what they were watching. Why? Because if you think about it, it's easier to share too. If I watched Stranger Things, I can literally get a link and say, oh, check out Stranger Things and put the link in there. If I'm watching Law and Order on NBC, it's like, oh yeah, you got to watch Tuesdays at 8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock or whatever. So it's not as easy to directly share. So people don't do it. But the streaming stuff they do. And the other thing that's really good, 42% of streamers binge watch, meaning more impressions. How many of you binge watch? Give me a 3 if you've binge watched anything on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus. I don't watch a ton of TV, and I have binge watched many shows. Stranger Things. There's a Sunday afternoon, the family's away doing something for whatever reason, and I'm home alone. I'll watch the entire season of Stranger Things that afternoon, right? Daphne says not in a long time. Well, that's because COVID's over. During COVID, everyone was doing it, right? Except for me. I went to work every day. Yeah, a lot of people, Teresa, Vicky. It happens. Nobody binge watches a show on ABC or BBC One or whatever because, you can't really do it. You watch what they say on Thursday at 9:00. And that's the only episode you get in today, sucker, right? But with these, you binge watch. And what that means is they're staying in front of that TV for a long period of time. If you are advertising on the, certain type of content and they're binge watching that, they're likely to see your commercial numerous times in a short period of time. And that's really good. Okay. Yeah. And Daphne says she had to work during COVID business. I know I didn't get my little COVID vacation. I had to work even harder. So that's one of these are some of the big things that really make Hulu such an amazing platform. And like I said, we own multiple small businesses and we run Hulu advertising for these, and we get some really, really nice results with it. And we've had a lot of fun with it, and it's easy to do. And we've got clients that we're getting on it because it does such a good job with that. But you do need to commit at least $500 ad spend. As I said, I've never seen where they hold you to that $500. So I've run ads. In fact, when I was doing some testing just to see if they would approve an ad, I said I'd run a $500 ad, and I ran it, and I actually did forget about it. I meant to stop it immediately, and I spent like $40 or something like that on a completely nonsense ad. But I just shut it down, and that was it. And it's not like they came to me and said, "Where's that $500?" Okay. You do need to be a lot more specific. The ads need to be exactly 30 seconds. Unlike Facebook, where your video ad could be as pretty much any length you want, or YouTube, where your video ad could be any length you want. I've run ads on YouTube that were an hour-long video just to get it in front of people. You can do that. With Hulu, it's a 30-second ad, so your commercial has to be 30 seconds. And believe it or not, 30 seconds is a weird thing. It's a very short period of time, but it's a very long period of time. You got to fit what you want to say in 30 seconds. That seems so short. And other times it's like, I got to do a whole 30 seconds for this. That can be tough. So got to make sure it's 30 seconds. You also need to follow their very strict guidelines. So you need to have the right file format for your video. So once you create this commercial, however you create it, you have to export it in the proper file format. And they will take MP4, thankfully, so most people can do that. They would prefer it be in the Apple codec, the HQ format that Apple does, because that's a pretty solid editing format. And so it keeps its quality. It's a bigger file, but they would much rather you do that. So if you use Final Cut Pro, you can export right into that mode and save it in the proper format for that. But you can do MP4 as well, but you have to have the right data rate. Unlike YouTube, where your data rate could be terrible, it could be great, it could be in between. With this here, you need to follow their guidelines and do the export at the right data rate. You need to have the right type of sound output on there as well. And you need to make sure it's the right frame rate. So you can't do any of these weird frame rates like you can do in some of the other ones. You've got to be specific on that. They want to see what's called 2997. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry. It's a highly technical term that I could spend an entire 2 hours just talking about 2997 and what it means. Basically, it's a frame rate, 30 frames per second, but 2997 has to do with the way that things are coded for TV. Why they still use that in the digital age, I don't know. I don't think there's any need for it, but that's what the standard has been since the 1950s and probably will be forever. So you got to make sure that you've got things at the proper frame rates as well. Highly technical, but easily overcome by anybody. You can, once you learn how to do it, it's not that hard. Yes. And as Arturo said, NTSC. Yes. So NTSC meaning National Television Standards Committee here in the U.S. NTSC is used in the U.S. PAL is used for instance, in England. And in Japan, they use a form of NTSC. So in this case with the Hulu, it's going to be NTSC formats. In this case, a QuickTime movie at $29.97 with a high bit rate. But you can learn how to do that. Even if you don't know what any of that means, you don't need to really know what that means. You just need to know where to find it inside your editing program and save it with those formats. But you just need to know those formats in order to do it. Okay. So it's not hard. So with that said, how would you guys like to be TV ads heroes to your clients? And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, how would you like to be able to provide your clients with these types of TV ads where you are helping them to get on television on a service like Hulu, get in there, get their 30-second commercials on, be able to report back to them and do all those great things? How many of you think that it could be profitable for you if you could tell your clients, hey, we're going to get you on a TV commercial and we're not going to charge you $1 million? How many of you think clients want to be on television? Give me a 1 in the chat box if you think clients would want to be on television and if you think they would think it's effective. I can guarantee that it is. I talked to many who don't think they can afford it, definitely see the value in it. They just know they can't afford it normally. So let me see. All right, seeing those ones coming in here. Arturo says in Mexico, we don't have Hulu. That's true. In Mexico, you don't have Hulu unless you're using a VPN, but that's another. But yes, Teresa says probably yes. Believe me, if all advertising was the same rates, people would do a lot more television. They're just afraid of the pricing and they know they can't afford it, even though it might help them out. But yes, TV ads, they would definitely love to be on TV. And how many of you think you could be profitable if you're helping them get on television? Maybe they don't know how to get on TV, and now you're giving them that opportunity without charging them the huge bucks. Maybe years ago they did cable TV ads. They spent a fortune, and they saw that it could be effective, but they couldn't afford to do it enough, and it made it kind of a waste of time. But they knew, if I could just show it all the time, I'd be doing fantastic, right? Daphne, I love it. That is one of the things. Did I mention it on here? I know it's in my notes. I don't think I put it on the screen, but it's in my notes. Daphne says, people are vain, so seeing their business on television is something they would like. Yes, that is a huge part of it. In fact, we push that. It is very effective, but the vanity of people want to be the big business that's on television. We mentioned earlier how there's a prestige to being on television. Those business owners want it. The small restaurant down the road, they want that prestige of being on television. Absolutely. So it's an easy sell when you tell them, hey, we can get you on TV and it's not going to cost you a fortune and we're going to do all the work for you, right? So Teresa says, what kind of budget would they need for effective ads above what we charge them? What we would charge them would be. Oh, and that's a great question, Teresa. And it varies. It's going to change. Now, I will tell you, if you run a Hulu ad, they're always going to tell you, oh, you should pay more. Shocking, I know. But realistically, we don't spend a fortune for, at least not for my personal businesses. I'll typically do $1,000 campaigns, and I'll stretch them out over 3 months, maybe 4 months sometimes. So we're not spending a ton per month. And then sometimes I'll run second campaigns that are stretched out again. So it's not a ton of money. It's not really, in fact, I probably spend less on my Hulu ads for my business than people you guys deal with just doing Google ads, I bet. So if they've got an ad budget that they use with Google, they can spend less than Google and be very effective with it. So, yeah. Yeah. Daphne, you got it right there. She says, especially if the competition doesn't know that they're paying peanuts. Yeah. If you can be on television knowing that the competitor up the road is not, and he's a vain guy up the road and you're sticking it to him because you're on TV. Yeah. It's an effective, that vanity is an effective method. And the good thing is you're using that as a tool for something that is effective. So you're not just doing it for vanity. There's tangible results that come from this. But that vanity is definitely a help in selling that to people. No doubt about it. So we've got a program that we've put together, and it's called TV Ads Hero, as you've probably seen on the screen here the entire time. And in this program, we actually teach you all about running TV ads on Hulu. And again, this is something that I didn't just learn how to do this so that I can make a course to teach you how to do it. We have been running ads for our local businesses on Hulu. We've been doing it for clients, and I started TV Ads Hero putting this program together like a year ago. And you guys are the first people, other than my audience back a little while ago. This is the first time I'm sharing it with anybody. So this is more than a year of data gathering and putting together the trainings and learning different things before we ever even put this program together. So you guys are the first ones to ever see this outside of my audience a couple weeks ago. And this is, we're going to teach you exactly what we do that's been effective for us. We're going to show you exactly how to set up your account. Right now, believe it or not, even after all this time, the Hulu advertising back end and everything is still a beta program. Now, when we say it's a beta program for us smaller businesses. The big daddy version of that Coke and Pepsi and Apple and the car companies use and everything has been around a lot longer and is a much more mature. But when it comes to what they call kind of like self-service, because you're doing this, you as either a business owner or as a small business marketer, using their self-service system for it. And that's still in beta mode right now. So you have to apply to it, and then they approve you. You shouldn't have any problems applying to it. And we show you exactly where to go and how to do that. So you're going to go in, you're going to apply for that, and you're going to get your account. Then we're going to show you exactly how you can run effective targeted campaigns. This is where we go through and show you from step one all the way through exactly how to set up a campaign. You're going to click this, you're going to do that. You're going to choose this, you're going to choose that. You're going to decide this, you're going to add that. We're going to show you all of that in there. We're going to show you how to run it based on location, how to target based on a location or multiple locations. We're going to show you how to target content. So maybe you want to run, maybe your client is somebody that's going to have a haunted house for Halloween. Well, we'll show you how you can have your client's ad running on horror stuff or sci-fi stuff or whatever it happens to be that makes the most sense. If they are a realtor, maybe it's going to be running on home improvement content. So you can choose all of that in there. We're going to show you all about that. And of course, activity-based, much like Google, much like YouTube, you can do things based off of activity. So in other words, if you've ever done a Google ad, there's a ton of things you can do. Oh, they recently bought a car that was over $50,000 and it had this, and it doesn't get quite that granular inside of Hulu, but it's very similar. So you can still target based upon activities in their life, in their lifestyle. Okay. We're going to show you how to create the ads that follow the text specifications. In other words, we're going to show you exactly how to make sure that your video is the right length. We're going to make sure that your video is the exact, time code, all that stuff. We're going to make sure that it is perfectly set up for that. And we're going to teach every little bit of that. We're going to show you how to export with the proper audio format. We're going to teach you how to export at the proper frame rate, at the proper bit rate, which is the big one. You need to make sure it's the right bit rate and what format to put it in. Like I said, they will do MP4, but they would rather have Apple's proprietary codec, which is a higher quality and a bigger file. You can't just upload junk onto there, okay? We're going to show you also where you can go to see what they'll allow and what they won't allow. And we're going to go through all the analytics. How do you get the reports back afterwards to know if people were watching, to know where they were watching, how they were watching, and if it was effective or not? Okay, we're going to go through all of that. Now, I will tell you, with Hulu advertising, much like with television advertising or billboards, you don't have all of the same types of things as you would have with, let's say, a Google ad, where you can go, oh yeah, it was served up to 10,000 people and 1,000 clicked on your website. You don't have that kind of granularity in your analytics because it's more of a passive format, but we'll still show you how you can report all that stuff back. And of course, you work with your client to see, hey, did you see the increases here and here? And you can even have other ways to track things, such as putting, a specific phone number or a specific website that people can click on that's only on your Hulu advertising, for instance. Okay. We're also going to give you something that we added recently, which is 30-second commercials ready to use that you can grab and use inside of Hulu. And these are some of the ones that I've tested to make sure that Hulu will approve them, and they did. I didn't think they wouldn't, but I did test them with that. So we've got right now inside the program, we've got 20 30-second commercials in a variety of different niches, from plumbers to lawyers and, carpet cleaners and things like that, where you can take those and you can customize them for your client. And you're going to get 20 of those in there. And we're going to be adding more, by the way. We're not going to be charging you more to add more. We're slowly adding those in there, because I actually had a program in the past where we had all of these commercials that we sold, but they weren't 30 seconds. So I'm in the process of converting them to 30-second commercials. So today, when you jump in on this, you're going to get 20 of those, but we will be adding more. I'm not going to say how many per month or anything like that, because it's all just a matter of me doing them over time. You might get tomorrow, you might show up and there might be 5 more. And then the next day, there might be 10 more. We're just going to keep doing them as we move along. But as far as this deal today, you're getting 20 of them with the promise that more will be going in there. And with those, we're going to teach you how to take those commercials, bring them into your video editor, and add the company logo and the contact information to them. They are direct marketing based. So they literally say, hey, if you're looking for this, call this number. The very direct marketing based video ads, perfect for businesses that may not have done ads in the past. They may not have done television. Now, if you are lucky enough to get a client that's already done television, you want to gather those TV commercials they've already done, and we're going to show you, the proper formats and all that, so you can make sure that they get out in that. But you're going to get 20 of these 30-second commercials in the top niches that you can just quickly modify slightly, get the company's information on there, and boom, you're ready to go. Export it out like we teach you, and you should be ready to go with that. So we're going to have all the training on how to modify those. Plus, we're going to also give you our entire 4K video library that gives you a bunch of different clips that you can use in creating your commercials, whether that is creating from scratch and needing some stuff, or if you're modifying the commercials that we have, maybe you want to change an image that's in there. Instead of just putting the company logo, maybe you don't like, this image of a city and you want to show a different one. You can grab some of the 4K footage, drop it in there, and now you've got a commercial with that in there instead. We're going to give you our music library and our sound effects library. I would love to say how many are in these. I would say thousands, but I'm going to say hundreds just in case it's 800 or 900, not over 1,000. But I believe it's thousands. Tons and tons of music in libraries. So like you can see on the screen there, the sci-fi pack, the jazz pack. They're all broken down into those different classifications of music: electronic music and rock music and classical and country. And you can choose tracks from in those. We got all those inside of there that you'll be able to choose from, along with the sound effects. Same things. We got, space sounds and sci-fi sounds and hospital sounds and city sounds and, whatever it happens to be. We're also going to give you a ton of animated backgrounds that you can use in your videos. So if you're putting together a video and you need a background that's animated so that you can put text on it in your commercial, there you go. Maybe it's for an end screen or whatever it happens to be, a background behind somebody that you shot on green screen. You can do that with these animated backgrounds. And we're going to give you animated graphics such as lower thirds, buttons, things like that you can add to it. That allows you to quickly, let's say you're doing a commercial and you want to put, John Smith, electrician, you can do that. And we're going to give you all of those inside there. We had a program that we released back about a year ago, a very small release that we did. We only did it with a few groups, of something that I call Video Sparks, SPARX. And that's what's in this, is that library collection, the music, the videos, the animated backgrounds, the lower thirds, the graphics, and all that. So those are the Video Sparks. You're getting all of that inside of this with TV Ads Hero today, which, by the way, is something that we will not be giving out when we launch this to the public, but this is something that we're giving out today for you guys, being our first group in there. Arturo, okay, yep, that's fine. Okay. Now, taking a look at all this, when you purchase this today, you're going to be getting the full training on how to run TV ads with Hulu. And that includes, by the way, how to get the clients. We're going to teach you how to get clients on top of that. You're going to get the 20 ready-to-use TV commercials with more coming. You're going to get our entire 4K library with hundreds. I say hundreds there. I think it's probably thousands, but I'll say hundreds just to be safe. You're going to get our music library with hundreds of tracks in there, our sound effects with hundreds of sounds, our animated backgrounds for the videos, and our animated graphics. All of this in there added up. I said here, $33.94. In reality, it's actually worth a lot more than that, because when we sell, for instance, the 4K video library as packs, if you added all those packs up when we sell them separately, it's not $4.99. It's like $2,000 or something like that. But we sell it as a pack for $4.99. So that's what we put here. So literally you're getting over $3,000 in value with this when you purchase this today. But as you can probably guess, we're not going to sell this to you for $3,000. Oh, no, no, no. We're going to sell it to you for a little bit less than that. And before I get the actual price, if you remember at the beginning, I mentioned that there was an issue with our easy links, which was driving me crazy because it was literally seconds before we jumped on here that this happened. So what I'm going to do right now is I am actually going to check on the link there to make sure that it is actually the proper link before I throw it up there. But give me 1 second here. And if I can find my program here, there it is. I'm going to drag that over here, and we're going to see if it's actually doing the right thing now, which is fine, because if it's not, we're going to give you the direct link, and it'll be no problem at all. But just give me 1 second to test that out. And let's see if it's back up and working again. And if not, we'll give you the regular old link. Yeah, it's Easy Links apparently is still not working. So give me 1 second here, and I'm going to get the real link for you to make sure that you can actually get this today. Give me 1 second there. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I would have this all prepared, but it literally happened the second before we get on there. All right. So as I said, we're not going to charge you $3,394 for this. What we're going to do today is we are going to only charge you $299. So for $299, you are going to get all of this. And quite literally, the smallest priced thing in here is one of these three down here that are already $299. So you're getting all of that, plus the trainings, plus all the 20 ready-to-use commercials, which, by the way, by themselves, at least $1,000 for that. And as we add more, worth even more. But do not go to this link right here, because while that I'm sure will start working once they fix Easy Links. So you be sure you can certainly write that down. But I'm going to put in the chat here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it in the chat for you guys here. This is the link you're going to want to click on. And give me 1 second, because I'm going to fix the offer in here too, if we can. Oh, we got to add the new one in there. All right. So that kind of breaks that up for me. I'm going to hit this start offer button here. I'm going to edit. And I'm going to change the link to make sure that we can actually get to it. There we go. And let me post that up here. Again, my apologies, guys. I would not normally be doing this except for the fact that we lost that at the last second. So let me post that up here, publish that. All right, you should be seeing now the TV Ads Hero little button with the Get It Now, and you should also have the link so you can jump in and grab that. We're only going to be holding this open for the next couple of days. So if you want to get in on this with all those bonuses and whatnot, you'll need to do that right away. And if you guys want, feel free to start. We'll do some question and answer now. If you've got questions that you have about any of this, please feel free to throw them out there. I know there was some questions earlier. As mentioned, somebody else asked about locally. Hulu, mostly in America right now. So, all right. She said, Daphne says she sees an offer tab, but nothing is coming up. Okay. Use the link. It's very aggravating that I literally spent the last couple of days making sure all this stuff was set up and worked. And then literally 5 minutes before we get started, the shortened link site went down and isn't working. So you should see that in there, Daphne. Let me know if you see that. It's the jvz4.com link that I just posted in there. But I will check. Let me check on that offer too, because the offer should be working. I just clicked on it a second ago and it seemed to work. When I click on the Get It Now button, and yeah, I clicked on the Get It Now button and it does seem to be working for me. So let me know if it is or isn't working for you guys. Would this be heavy video editing to provide this service? No, not necessarily. If you're using our pre-made ones, it's actually very, very simple. You literally open up the your video editor, whatever you're using, bring the commercial in, and you just drop the logo on the end and maybe their phone number or their website, and export it out at the settings that we tell you in the training. Because again, the settings are the biggest part. Once you know the settings, it's not a problem. It sounds scarier than it is, but you get the settings, put them in there, and it should work. And like I said, guys, don't use where it says on the screen here, raiselinks.com/fire launchers. Don't use that right now. It's going to go to a blank page that says it's not currently available. That's our shortened link. You got to use the either the offer button or the link that I put into chat in order to get that. I apologize. Like I said, we did everything to make sure this was all up and running, and then 5 minutes before the short link site, and that means every one of my short links for everything ever is currently not working. So anybody clicking on other things from a year ago can't click on them right now for whatever reason. And it happened, 5 minutes before we went on the air, of course. And by the way, as you pick this up, be sure to let us know that you're in. Give me a 1 or say I'm in, and that way we can give you the clapping round of applause and the thank you for that. But as I said, with this here, the video's fairly easy to edit. You put the videos into the timeline, you add the stuff on there, you hit export, and you're good to go. You should immediately be able to use that inside of Hulu there. Is the training live or all by video? The videos are already there. So while I'm not saying we won't ever do any live trainings, all the videos are in there. So when you get this, you're going to go in today. You're going to have everything you need in there. We already have people from my groups that have been doing this for a while now. So I've got guys who have been through this whole program and been doing it for a while. We started testing. I think the first round of people that we brought in was maybe 4 months ago. Who started doing it. So these have been up there for about 4 months as far as the trainings go. In fact, I went in and made some changes because Hulu actually changed some of their links for some of their documents. So we had to go in and make some changes to that. But basically what you see there, we actually did this as we were using it ourselves a few months ago and started training it with people then. So this is a well-vetted, well-tested program. And so, yeah, we will do live videos. In fact, one of the videos in the course actually was a live session that we did that was recorded and we put in there. And that had to do with finding clients. Because that's the other thing. I didn't touch on this too much, but in there we do have a training on how you find clients and how you get the clients. And we show you some techniques to find who is a good client to get, how to contact them, how to find them, and then how to reach out to them and try to sell this to them. So you get that training in there. So you're not just going to be dumped into the deep end of the pool. You're going to get information on how to actually sell this to the clients as well. All right. Any other questions? Let me see here. Start throwing out more of those questions and we will get to them. As we said, yes, Hulu, I believe at least mostly in the United States. I'm not even sure on Canada. But of course, people across different nations use it through using VPNs and things like that. But you certainly can. And of course, if you're in another country like Arturo in Mexico, there's nothing stopping you from getting clients through online means that are in the U.S. to sell this kind of service to, or companies in Mexico that maybe want to sell inside the U.S. Okay, what should we be charging them? Okay, this is a good one. As far as that goes, when you get started with this, there's a lot of different ways that you can charge your clients. You can charge them, you can charge them either a percentage of what they're buying. So for instance, if they're doing X thousands of dollars in advertising through you, then you could charge a percentage of that. Typically, a lot of people are spending enough, they'll do 10 to 15%. Some do 20% even. You can also just charge them a monthly fee. You could charge them just for creating the commercials and then just give them the ad budget on top of that and, basically be paying just for doing the commercial part of it. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but I would recommend having some sort of fee for managing it for them every month, because you're going to get paid to make the commercials for them usually. Even if you're using the pre-made commercials, they don't know much of that. They just know that you're making a commercial for them. So you could be charging them X amount of money to make the commercials, or maybe even charging a monthly fee for the commercial itself. And then on top of that, giving them a monthly fee for running the ads. And the great thing is, once you set up the ad and it's going, you don't really have to do much unless they're going to change their ad completely. You just kind of let it run. And that means that it's hands off. You just collect a check every month, which is really a good thing. We love when we're into businesses where you just collect the check for having something run all the time. Things change pretty fast. Will you update the training when Hulu makes changes to the process? Yes, absolutely. And the reason is, Teresa, I'm using it too. So as they make changes, I'm going to have to, learn those changes and put them out there anyway. Right now, that program is still technically in beta, so there probably will be changes. I expect the analytics to change a lot because they've actually got, if you view the analytics on the website, for instance, they've got a lot of cool charts that they make for you and things like that. But then you hit the download report and it's, really terrible. It's just a spreadsheet with text on a line, and it's useless, really. I grab screenshots of the graphical stuff instead because it's better. But as things change, yes, we will definitely be updating that. Like I said, they moved some of their documents. And so as recently as this week, I was changing some of the links when we say, go here to see their tech specs. Their actual tech specs that they write, they're in a different spot now. So I had to change things like that. Is there the ability to use a sponsor on the commercials that we do, meaning advertise our service on the client's commercial? That's a good question. So I think if I'm getting what you're saying, Daphne, that would be like you did a commercial for Joe's carpet cleaning service, and at the end it might say commercial made by Daphne's video service. I would imagine that wouldn't be an issue. It's not something I've tried, so I couldn't say for sure 100%, but I would assume that would be okay if it's okay with the client. Many clients are going to be like, heck no, I'm not paying for you to advertise yourself. So that's up to you and the client on that. But I don't think Hulu would stop that at all. And I know YouTube wouldn't stop that. So definitely some merit to that if you want to get in and do that. And yes, they do have to be 30-second commercials. I believe they've been testing 15-second commercials as well, but it's not something that we have available to us yet. At some point in time, I imagine that would change. And if we can do 15-second commercials, that would be really cool as well, because people don't have time to run out and grab popcorn if it's a 15-second commercial like they do when it's a 30-second commercial. So, but like I said, the big thing is we love Hulu advertising because it's not skippable. It's just not skippable. All right. Thank you to those of you that have said that you're in. I appreciate that. Let's see. The client will agree if they believe that they're getting lesser price. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So there is, worst that could happen is you try it and Hulu says you can't do that, but I don't see any reason why they would say you can't do that. They used to be a little more strict with brands. So in other words, they used to, if I remember it correctly, they used to have it where, let's say you had an account for your carpet cleaning company, then that was the only brand that could be done inside there. You couldn't do a different business, things like that. And that was when they had the $20,000 ad spend. So you couldn't have your back end have 10 clients and have each of them paying, this guy paying $5,000, this guy paying $8,000 until it added up to $20,000. You had to, for this client, it had to be advertising this one client $20,000 for that brand. And that was it. And it was impossible really for most small businesses to, even though you didn't have to pay $20,000, you just had to commit to it. That was more than people were willing to commit. When they changed that to $500, boom, that changed the entire world with that. All right. Thank you. Good. Glad to see you guys are getting in. If you have any troubles with it, let me know. Be glad to help out with that. All right. Any more questions out there? We're already at an hour and a half. Woo! Can't believe that time went by so fast. I don't want to hold you guys up too much. So throw any more questions that you have out there, and we'll answer those as best we can. So let's see here. Any other questions before we get ourselves out of here? Let's see. What budgets do we recommend? I always try to do $1,000. I would rather do $1,000 and spread it out over bigger time than like a smaller number, like 500 over a shorter period of time. Just because, all right, let's be honest. I want to be as lazy as possible. So if I can get them to commit to a higher number over a longer period of time, that's less work I have to do later. Now, granted, you know, when that commercial runs out, it's not like it's a ton of work to run it again or run a different commercial or what have you. So it's not like it's a ton of work at that point. But if I can collect let's say even a $500 check every month and just, let it run for 4 months and collect a check every month for nothing, I would rather do that than doing work more often. So if you can get bigger budgets and get them to stretch it out, you're going to be doing a lot less work. Well, you're not going to be doing a lot of work anyway at that point after it's up the first time, but you'll be doing even less work. So I would recommend trying to do that as best you can. And okay. Oh, thank you for jumping in. We got a lot of people that are jumping in. That's good. We appreciate that. All right. Any more questions? Throw them out there and we will try to answer them. And if not, like I said, we're at an hour and a half already, so we don't want to hold you guys up. How many of you believe, after seeing this, that Hulu is a definite possibility for running advertising? Let me know in the chat if you think it's a good possibility. Give me a 1 in the chat or say yes or something like that if you think Hulu might be a good fit for your clients and a good possibility for you as a marketer. And I know that there's a slight delay, so we'll wait for those answers to start rolling in. But and let's check on our poll one last time and see what we got here. So it looks like TV did end up running away with it. 66% felt that TV was the most effective form of advertising. And I would agree. It's not necessarily the simplest because you have to create commercials and you have to, set it all up and everything else. And especially in the old days with regular television, it was a lot of work to get an ad on TV. But nowadays it's a whole heck of a lot easier. So, all right. And yes, I've got some ones, Daphne and Teresa. All right. Yep. So everybody seems to think this would be a pretty good fit for clients. And I agree. We've had a lot of luck with it. We've really enjoyed it. So, any last questions before we let you guys get out of here today? We'll give it the about 10 seconds to ask any more questions. And if not, I'll let you guys get out of here and we'll all go and get back to work. So throw them out there. And by the way, I appreciate all of you that have stuck around. I appreciate all of you that have said that you've picked this up already. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to have new people taking a look at it because, like I said, we've been using this formula, for lack of a better word, for quite a while now, almost 2 years, maybe almost 2 years, I believe. And we've had a lot of good luck with it. We've run it on multiple businesses and always had a good luck with it. We've never had an ad that was turned down. Actually, that's not totally true. I did export one incorrectly one time that got turned down, and that was my fault. But as far as content goes, we've never had an ad turned down by Hulu. So even though, they have that list of rules and regulations, it seems like it's actually a little simpler than it may seem when you're trying to read all that stuff. So let's see. Daphne says, yes, Daphne just wants to private chat. She's talking about here. So, yeah, Daphne, absolutely. And in fact, to end this out here, the one thing that's not up there, I'm going to put in here is, videoguy.com. I'm going to put in my email here. So this is for anybody that has questions that maybe you don't want to ask in the live webinar in front of everybody, or Daphne, if you want to reach out to me, you can do that there. Or if you simply look up Ray the Video Guy on Facebook, you can message me there. I'm always getting messages from people on there, so feel free to reach out that way as well. So if you got questions on TV ads, if you got questions on Hulu, if you got questions on the pre-made ads that are in here or video editing or anything like that, please feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to answer them for you. This special is going to be going for the next couple of days. So I believe we're going to probably run it through Monday. I will check with the old fire launchers and see when they want to run this down, but I believe at least until Monday. So feel free to go and check it out. If you've got questions, reach out to me, ray@raythevideoguy.com. So it's easy to remember that, or just Ray the Video Guy on Facebook or even on YouTube. You can reach me on YouTube as well. So feel free to do that. But guys, I thank you for listening to me jabber on for an hour and a half. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope we had a little bit of fun in the process as well. And I hope that you have not only a great weekend, but a profitable week coming up, hopefully with running some Hulu ads, or at least getting started doing that. So, and thank you for everybody that already is in on that. We appreciate you. And if you have any issues trying to access it or questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. We know that as I said, right before we started, the Easy Links thing went down. And so, some things that you click on might have some issues at the moment. Hopefully that'll be fixed very shortly, but feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll be able to help you out. And yes, Daphne, I look forward to seeing what you do with it. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So feel free to reach out to me. And you guys have a great weekend. Again, this will be going for the next couple of days. Reach out to Ray at raythevideoguy.com with any questions. And we'll talk to you guys next time.